Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you're located. We're so happy that you've chosen to join us today for the first in our fall series of Hot Topics webinars. Today's webinar will be on the topic of artificial intelligence in career and technical education, vocational education, and training. We've got a couple of experts to share their vast knowledge on this emerging topic. This series of webinars is brought to you by IVETA and Wawiwa, and we have representatives from both organizations with us today. So to begin our program, we will start with a welcome from IVETA President Julian Eng. Welcome, Julian.
Thank you very much, Julie. It's a pleasure to be here. And first of all, I am absolutely thrilled that IVETA is working with Wawiwa Tech in Israel to bring you this series of what we call Hot Topics webinars. And we hope you will join us for the remaining series, the remaining episodes of this series as we go through the rest of this year. So thank you very much. And I hope you have a very enjoyable and good learning experience today. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. And now I'd like to introduce our two presenters today. First, coming to us from California in the USA is Dominic Slauson. Dominic is a learning experience designer at the University of California, Irvine. Dominic has championed various roles in the educational arena, from being an instructional technologist at various colleges and universities in the U.S. to an online faculty developer in Vietnam. His notable contributions in AI include nursing education. This, combined with his academic background and certifications from organizations such as Google and Quality Matters, make him an authority and the perfect presenter for our webinar today. I had the pleasure of working with Dominic when I worked at Chippewa Valley Technical College in Wisconsin, and believe me, you are being treated to a great presenter this morning. Our second presenter is Oded Israeli. He is the CMO at Wawiwa Tech. Wawiwa Tech is reskilling the world with technology, with over 2 decades of experience spanning diverse tech sectors. He brings to us insights in accommodating AI-driven changes in strategy, marketing, and business operations. He's been part of NASDAQ-traded tech enterprises, and he's sold startups to tech giants. Oded holds an MBA from INSEAD and an LLM from Tel Aviv University. So welcome to Dominic and welcome to Oded, and we'll begin with the presentation from Dominic.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm going to pull up my slide deck here and we're just going to dive straight in because I want to make sure that we use the most of our time here. So in my presentation today, my part of this presentation today, I want to really just take you on a journey of when I discovered how much AI was going to be a seismic shift in education. And I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour here of just some of the ways in which I started to realize just how impactful AI was going to be in designing learning experiences for such a vast array of learners that we serve these days. To kind of kick things off, I want to pull up this quote. This is actually a quote that is the introduction to my website, which I'll provide for you at the end of my presentation here. AI is transforming the way we think, learn, and teach. As educators, we have an obligation to understand and harness the power of AI ethically and responsibly. By doing so, we can revolutionize the instruction we provide and offer students the genuine and impactful learning experiences they need for their future success. This is something that I truly have come to believe once I started to understand just what the capabilities of AI were. And I think it's really important to hone in on those keywords in the middle of there, ethically and responsibly. As we start looking at how we're going to leverage these tools, we always want to ensure that we still have that human expert at the center of how we leverage it to ensure that we're still giving our learners a valid and human connected experience. Now, with that said, like so many others, I became aware of just how influential AI was going to be towards the end of last year, as ChatGPT came on the scene and started blowing everyone's minds. Um, and at first, when I got my hands on it and started playing around with it, I did some relatively simple things. And let me show you some of the things I did just to kind of give you an idea of where I started. So at this point, I think a lot of people are familiar with the idea of a prompt. So going to a large language model like ChatGPT or Bing or Bard or Claude and prompting the AI, giving it some instructions of what you want it to do. Here's a prompt that I had designed very early on. This is probably around December or so of last year. I built this prompt. And this one's relatively simple. I tell it, I'm going to provide you with a topic. I want you to create an analogy that effectively explains the topic with the context of a college course. And then I give it some additional instructions of, how I want it to go about this. In this case, I asked the AI, I want you to actually give me 3 versions of the analogy. I want you to give me one that's metaphorical, one that's humorous, and one that's historical. I can remember when I designed this prompt, I was thinking to myself, okay, just how good is this AI? Because I'm giving it some level of sophistication here with, I want you to give me 3 different outputs and 3 different tones. So how well did it do with this? Well, it did it pretty darn well, actually. So here are the outputs that ChatGPT had provided me. I'm not going to read through each of them here, but I was really impressed. I realized, wow, that is better than what I could have done, and it did it within seconds. So once I realized just how quickly it was able to interpret and organize text with complex instructions, my instructional designer hat came on, and I realized, wait, this kind of changes the game in terms of how we design learning experiences. So then I went further. Here's another prompt that I had made. First, in this prompt, I provided a competency, create visually appealing graphics using page layout and design principles. Okay, so this is for a graphic design course. And then down below, I tell it, I want you to create an assessment that aligns with the competency that I've provided. So now I'm giving it a certain level of sophistication by telling it, I want you to ensure the assessment you create is aligned to the competency that I've provided you. And then I give it details of what kind of information I want it to give. And now here's the output. It gives me this very nice assessment. It describes what it is. It tells me how it aligns to the competency. There's actually a little bit more to the prompt that I did not include here, but you can see, like I told it at the very beginning, give it a student-friendly tone. Make it sound like it comes from the voice of the instructor. And you can see with that very first sentence there, welcome back to the graphic design desktop publishing course. I hope you've all been enjoying the course so far. So it's got that student-friendly tone to it. And then it goes into introducing the assessment and providing step-by-step instructions for how learners will go about it. So, okay, this is an impressive level of sophistication. What else could we do with it? How else could this technology make an instructor's life easier? Well, I came up with this one because I know that every faculty member's favorite thing to do is to, spend a Saturday night putting together rubrics for their assessments. I thought, can the AI help with this? So I put together this prompt. And in this case, once again, I would have provided it additional information of, okay, here's the assessment that I'm working on. I could say maybe here's the criteria I want to measure, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I have an assessment and I would like the AI's help to give me what it feels would be the most appropriate criteria on which to measure a learner's comprehension. I provided that prompt, and then here's the output. A fully put together rubric with levels of achievement and descriptions of what those criteria look like at the different levels of achievement. Okay. Now, in addition to all the work I do when it comes to faculty development and instructional design, I'm also fortunate enough to work on a grant project that is the development of nursing resources. And in that grant project, we're developing a lot of case studies. Now, I realize that what's on the screen right now is far too small for you to read. But the reason I have it on the screen is because what you're looking at here is a prompt for the AI. It is a prompt that's going to build a case study, a nursing case study. And I want you to look at just the level of detail that's in there. I mean, that's a lot of text that I am instructing the AI in what I want it to do, how I want it to build the case study, what parameters it should include, so on and so forth. I give the AI all of these instructions, and then here's the result. We have a case study in which we have a realistic, authentic patient, and we have a medical situation that this patient's going through. We have their medical history. We have their vitals. We have information about any medications that they're currently on. We have a set of decision points that the nurse needs to consider. And then over on the right, we've got an image. Now, this is where we start really ramping up the level of sophistication, because that patient on the right does not actually exist. That is an AI generated image. But not only is it AI generated, but it is aligned to the description of the patient that's in the case study. Now, in terms of us creating authentic, engaging, immersive, simulation-like experiences, now that we've designed prompts for AI like this, we are able to create these learning experiences at a far more efficient level than we ever could before. This is where it becomes a true game changer in education. As I said, my company, Codaptive Labs, we had the opportunity to partner with the OpenRN project, which is a grant-funded project from the U.S. Department of Education to develop open educational resources for nursing programs. So developing curriculum and content that nursing programs from around the world can use. And through this project, as I started realizing the power of AI, I started putting together different elements. So most of what I've shown you thus far has been generative text AI, things that you'd get from like ChatGPT. But then I started thinking about, well, what if we pulled in some imagery, like you just saw with that patient there that was in the hospital bed? And what if we pulled in a synthetic voice so that we could maybe create a patient or a nurse and actually hear what they say? And then on top of that, could we actually animate their face? And could we actually have them speak directly to the learner? It's important to bear in mind that while generative text-based AI like ChatGPT is getting all the headlines right now, the same thing is happening with image and voice and video. We're seeing immense breakthroughs with all of them. And by combining these elements, we're able to take these case studies and simulations that we're developing and truly bring them to life. And just to give you a sample of what we're doing with this, I'm going to go ahead and queue up a video here to demonstrate our video.
Please provide morning cares for the residents in rooms 101 through 106. Alejandro Hernandez in room 101 has heart failure and will need his TED hose applied before he gets out of bed. He is very hard of hearing. Chen Shulin in room 102 has COPD and should have her nasal cannula in place at all times.
Okay, I'll just pause it right there. I don't want to take too much time, but this is an example of what we can do when we combine these different generative AI platforms. We can make something greater than the sum of its parts. This is where the future of education is going, with our ability to create incredibly engaging and immersive experiences that give our learners an authentic sense of what it will be like to be in that scenario in the future. So, where should we go from here? I realize that some of the stuff that I've shown you here today, it's exciting, but it can also be a little overwhelming. I've got a few recommendations that I would just give to anyone who works in academia for where I feel this should go next. First and foremost, professional development focused on AI literacy. It is critical that we begin giving our faculty and staff a better understanding of what these AI tools are capable of, so that they can better understand how they might utilize it and where things are headed. Begin experimenting with AI tools. Honestly, I've been to many training sessions and webinars like this where I've seen some incredible stuff, but I think for a lot of people, they don't fully realize the implications until they actually start using it and start experimenting with different ways of applying the AI. From there, we really need to start reconceptualizing learning in the age of AI. We need to rethink how we assess learning and what we're even teaching our learners, because with the capabilities of these tools, everything is changing. And I realize that's a lot of work, but it's work that needs to be done. Development of AI literacy curriculum. This is critical in order for both our faculty and our learners to really understand where AI can be a benefit and where AI has shortcomings. We need to start baking AI literacy into our curriculum and making that a fundamental part of the curriculum we teach across all domains. Lastly, we need to foster a community of sharing. No one person is the expert on AI in its totality, because the topic is just far too big for any one person to be the expert. The more that we share how AI can be used and the implications of it, the more that we can all develop our skill set. So that's going to wrap up my portion of the presentation for today. If you want to get access to all the prompts that I've shown you, or if you want to see more examples like that nursing simulation, make sure to check out my website, coadaptivelabs.com. I've got all the information there.
Thank you so much, Dominic. That was just an excellent overview of this topic, although definitely we realize that 15 minutes certainly doesn't give this topic justice. So now we will hear from Oded, and then we'll open it up to our audience for questions.
Hi, Julie. Thank you very much for hosting me. Okay, so let me put up my presentation. And by the way, if any of you has questions during the presentations, feel free to put them in the chat and we can go over them in the Q&A session. Okay, so there are going to be some similarities between my presentation and Dominic's. Thanks, Dominic. It's been a fascinating presentation. And I want to bring it down a bit because from my feeling when lecturing about AI in different forums, I understand that AI is a huge buzz for everybody. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's heard about AI. AI is going to either be the next best thing or destroy humanity. One of the two, right? But when you actually ask a room full of people, have you tried AI? You know, have you gone into one of the tools and done something with AI? The vast majority have not yet. And I think everybody should use AI and everybody should see how simple it is to use AI, because it's good really for everybody. And in my presentation, I want to give you a taste of what students can do with AI, what educators can do with the AI, and why it's inevitable that all of you out there will use AI, not in the distant future or in the near future. Why each one of us should use AI starting today. So a bit about Wawiwa, the company where I work as a chief marketing officer. Wawiwa is reskilling the world to tech. We actually partner with education centers, universities, TVET operators around the world, and we help them provide courses and programs that reskill and upskill people to tech. And we've done that successfully in 11 countries and 5 continents over the last 3 years. And we're constantly adding new partners around the world. So if you're a university or a TVET operator and you would like to hear more about our tech programs and short courses, feel free to visit our website at wawiwa-tech.com and we'll take it from there. Personally, about me, I'm 48 years old, so I'm in business and marketing as a professional for 20 years, but I consider myself an AI fanatic. And that's a recent development. I've only been an AI fanatic for less than a year. And that is because, as Dominic mentioned, the great revolution happened just last October, in October of 2022, when a company called OpenAI has launched ChatGPT, an AI tool, a language model for the public, and we'll discuss that in a minute. My experience, both as a tech professional, but also as a vocational butterfly, I've been in marketing, I've been in product management, I'm a lawyer, I've done some operations, and as a student in academic degrees and a lot of online courses has enabled me to see that there's so much added value that educators and students can take from AI, that I've started giving lectures at middle schools to students, pupils in the 7th to 9th grade, about how they should integrate AI tools into their studies to become better students, to do their work better. And it's fantastic to see how small children can adapt AI immediately, the same way like they adapt cell phones or computers or the TVs. And it's amazing to see also all the teachers coming up to me and saying, you got to give this course also to the staff of the school, and we would like to embed AI. But as you know, universities, schools, they're slower to integrate technology, and for a couple of good reasons and a couple of excuses. I want to start with the TVET basics. Why is it important? All of you are in TVET, you're IVETA members, you've been in vocational training and adult learning for years. But I want us to remember a couple of basics. First, nowadays, especially nowadays, we learn in order to work. Meaning in the past, you could have an academic degree and you would learn something fascinating like, anthropology or geography, etc. And you would have a life as a scholar. But as modern economy presses us for the living expenses and providing for our families and making something out of our careers, all of us learn mostly in order to work. And we do that both in the universities, but also in other training centers. And something that emerged over the last 5 to 10 years is something called the global skills gap. So the fact that the industry needs something specific from new employees, but universities are too slow to adapt their programs or curriculum in order to create tech professionals or professionals at all that fit the industry needs. And since the university degrees take too long, 3 to 5 years to complete, and they do not equip graduates for work, graduates go off to the market after an academic degree and they say, we can find a job. We have a very nice diploma to hang on the wall, but it doesn't help us with finding a job. Therefore, the need for vocational training, not only for people who couldn't get to universities, but also for people who went through universities but actually couldn't find employment, is super crucial. And the importance of TVET operators, especially in the tech sector, to equip people with tech skills has grown tremendously and keeps growing because there's a huge need and shortage in tech talent, and universities do not fill this talent quick enough. And even if we've learned something in the university, we know that tech disrupts our work, whether we're teachers or gardeners or accountants or lawyers. In every profession, we hear statements like, technology has changed my industry. A new tool has come up and I have to learn how to use it in order to keep my job. And my profession might disappear in a couple of years. And in 2002, there were a couple of researches by the World Economic Forum and Citrix, for example, saying that half of the world's employees would need to reskill until 2025. And the Citrix survey said that 82% of employers and 62% of HR professionals believe that workers would need to reskill or upskill meaning learn new skills within their profession and reskill coming from one profession to a totally different profession at least once a year, just to remain competitive at the workforce. But 2023 has brought AI into the equation. And my personal survey would tell you that because of AI, everybody, each and every one of us, 100% of the workforce would have to reskill and upskill, especially upskill, at this new skill of prompting, of using AI tools now in order to remain competitive. Because you'd hear the following statement quite a lot. People who use AI will replace people who don't use AI way before the robots replace us all. So AI creates an explosive disruption in both education and work. And I wouldn't go into the history of AI, but AI started back in the 50s with Alan Turing, who created the Turing test that says essentially, what is artificial intelligence? If a machine can do something that a human can do and we deem that action intelligent, then the machine would have artificial intelligence for doing the same thing. And he created the Turing test to say, if I communicate with an entity beyond the screen, I can't see who I'm communicating with, and I can't tell whether it's a human or a machine, it means that it passes the Turing test and the artificial intelligence of that machine is great. And we've all tested ourselves with, customer service bots over the last years, and we've seen that we recognize it's a machine after one response or two responses. They're not really good. But as Dominic mentioned in his lecture, the introduction of ChatGPT, what is called generative AI, and generative AI are software, programs, algorithms, services that use deep learning to create new text, new art, new music, new videos, creative content, simply by the user typing a textual command or order. So Dominique would say, create a case study for a nurse, and it would. I would say, create a picture of a teacher teaching a class, and it would. It's that simple. We only need to know natural language, English, in order to operate those machines. And McKinsey, over a couple of months ago, already said it. We see an explosive growth. A third of the organizations already use generative AI regularly, and 40% will increase investment in AI. And ChatGPT, a tool that I'll share with you in a second, has grown to 100 million active users in just 2 months. It took electricity to get to 50 million people, in decades. It took the internet to penetrate 100 million active users in years. But suddenly, this new technology is like fire in the field. Everybody who hears about it, everybody who tries it, not only sticks with it, but rather tell his friends and family and the neighbor so that they can use it as well. It's that revolutionary. And there are a ton of AI tools out there already. The same way like we have a mobile app for everything, we want to navigate somewhere, we take Waze, we want to chat with someone, we take WhatsApp. The same way, there's an AI tool for everything, for creating text, images, audio, video, even programming code. But the two major tools that everybody should know about are ChatGPT and Midjourney. Both of them have a good competition from other tech giants, but they are like the go-to tools for everyone. And ChatGPT can do anything that involves text. It's really magic, like Dominic showed you, with complex prompts that can create entire case studies, etc. But just to explain what it is, it's a language model. So it's software that has indexed the entire internet, and it knows the relationships between different words. So if you write a certain word, it would know, okay, the next word that I need to present is the following because of the context, because of the statistics of these words being together. So I'm simplifying, of course, here, but how do I use it? Really simple. You ask something in natural language in English, and then you chat about it. And it remembers the history of the chat so that you can improve and you can do more with it. It's free. and this has been, a big hurdle for educators over the past decade or a century even, is that we have very little funds usually in order to develop our programs, but ChatGPT is free, so there's no reason why not use it immediately. Let me give you an example. I asked it yesterday to write a poem about TVET. And if something can write a poem, then it's super intelligent. Even humans find it difficult to write a poem. So I said, act as a poet and an educator. And this is a good ChatGPT tip. Before you start a prompt, give him a context of who you are, who you want him or it to act as when it answers you. So give him a perspective. And then I asked, write me a 10-line poem about TVET, tech changing the world, and the necessity of educators to adopt AI. Super simple quote, and it gave me this fantastic song. In TVET's embrace, skills take flight, crafting futures shining bright. Tech reshapes the world we know, changing fast, yet steady in its grow, and ending with, in this dance of man and machine unite, for in this union, the world's future is bright. Fantastic, but I didn't really like it. So I asked it, write another one. And because it has no ego, and it works 24/7, and you can improve, on what you've created, it gave me that second song. And each such song only takes 2 seconds to produce. And in this new song, TVET shines in hands-on trainings glow, vocational paths where future workers grow. Tech changes the world at a pace so fast. With TVET's guidance, skills are built to last. AI in the class, a tool we must use, making learning swift and with... You see, it's beautiful, really. I wouldn't waste my 15 minutes here at this IVETA webinar on reading poems written in 2 seconds by AI, but just grasp the magnitude and the capability and the competence of this software tool. Midjourney is a similar tool. It's a bit more hard to operate and it costs a bit of money, but it can generate anything graphic, icons, cover photos, illustrations, graphs, anything. It costs a bit, but it's well worth it. And examples that I can give you is, for example, 3 images that we created at Wawiwa for our blogs. An illustration of a futuristic classroom, see, with a world and, lasers, and everybody's using their mobile phones because they already do. Then again, a digital art of a geeky professor in the 80s. That one I really like. It really resonates with me as a boy born in the 70s. And a student learning cybersecurity with VR glasses. So as long as you have something in your imagination and you can express it in simple English, you'll get beautiful art that you would have looked for at stock photo sites, or you would have asked a graphic designer or a photographer to produce. And today you get them in a minute just by asking AI to produce these for you. But let me jump directly into the classroom and tell you what students can do and actually do a lot with AI. So students don't use AI a lot yet, but as young people, they're early adopters, they jump right in, they try, and these are the kind of things that they can do in class. First of all, they can ask questions so they can study for themselves. Tell me about World War II. Tell me about the Great Revolution in France, and they'll get answers. But they'll get answers on anything. Tell me about how a tomato grows on the tree, and they will get answers for that, because ChatGPT and AI tools, they know everything. They've scanned the internet. And they would get one answer, one good answer, instead of a lot of answers in Google, which is the search paradigm that we're moving from. They can do their homework, and this is a bit of a risk for you educators. You give them homework, instead of thinking about it, doing it, experimenting, they'll just ask ChatGPT, do the homework for me, solve some equations. And let me maybe show you an example of homework. I've done something like that here. Here's a poem. Okay, here, if you can see my screen, I've asked it to act as a student in a Office 365 training course. And I said, okay, write an essay of 100 words about the differences between Word and Excel. And like Dominic mentioned about the tone of voice, I said, use plain English and make occasional spelling and grammar mistakes. Why? So it looks human. AI is too perfect. And immediately it says, MS Office has two main programs, Word and Excel. Word is for writing stuff. Excel is like a big calculator. And I asked him to highlight the mistakes that it made. And look how smart. It says, sometimes I mix them up. And it actually misspelled the word sometimes. So you can ask him to act like, your average Joe student, and it would do a fantastic job. But you can also do it much more personalized. I said, okay, let's say that I'm a TVET student for nursing, and I come from China, and I need to write an essay about accepting people at the emergency room after an accident. And it did that. It said, okay, we need to take immediate and precise care and stabilize the patient. But I also asked the prompt to add a personal experience that made her, the student, go to nursing, and add the Chinese proverb. And in the same simplicity, it says, when I was young, I witnessed a neighbor getting injured in a minor accident. And here's the proverb: a drop in the water shall be returned with a burst of a spring. A small act of kindness gives you a lot back. Like, think about it. It makes entire stuff up and it looks genuine. So there's a lot that students can do to trick educators and do stuff really quickly. And it goes also for equations. So they can use it for research, but they can also use it for fictive research. Meaning if if ChatGPT doesn't have an answer, it would invent a new article and a new writer that wrote something that they want to believe in. And they can rephrase a very academic background in simple English so that, they would get it in a language that characterizes a young professional. So there's a lot that can be done with AI. Let me jump to what teachers can do with AI. But before that, that's, I think, the most important slide in my presentation. We go to either a cycle of AI ignorance, knowing it's there but not using it, or a cycle of AI integration. So what happens in the classroom today, at this very moment, at each of your centers, is that students use AI. They're aware. There are 100 and even 500 million active users. Your students are one of those, users of ChatGPT, and they submit already AI-powered work in your classes. And when they do, you get impressed as an educator because it does a fantastic job. Why not get impressed? But in this situation, you might not be aware that the student has invested zero time in preparation and just copy pasted something that the machine has made. This doesn't help them learn, and it wouldn't help them take the test. But if we just add a couple of more steps to the circle of ignorance, it becomes a circle of AI integration. When they submit the AI work, we are aware that they do. And when we are aware that they do, we're still impressed because the result is fantastic. But the institution or the educator needs to take steps to see that what was submitted is actually valid, that it's based on facts and not hallucinations or inventions by the AI, and that it adds value, that they didn't just copy paste, but actually, spoke with the AI, integrating something from the class, added some of their characteristics and learnings and experience into the work so that in the grading, this would have an effect, that we're still human, that we use AI as a tool, but we still operate our brains in order to be more effective. And after such checks, educators should guide students in using AI. They should say, we know that you use it. We can't forbid it. It's a tool like the internet. Nobody would say, don't use Google. And now you won't say, don't use AI, but you gotta tell them how to use AI. You gotta tell them, we know that you do that, but when I'm gonna get your essay, when I'm going to check your test, when I'm going to check your home assignment, I'm going to want to see that you've actually integrated stuff from the lessons, from the frontal lessons, from the Zoom lessons, from something that happened to you in your city. They can still do some of these things using AI, but they'll have to work harder and actually read the output of artificial intelligence in order to make it right for your course. What can educators do today in the class with AI? You can develop new courses and syllabus. You can prepare presentations and make them wow. Just to give you another small example, there's an AI tool called Tome. And if I tell Tome, I'm doing it live, create a presentation about TVET and wild animals, something that it has very little relationship to it. I click enter, it generates the outline of the presentation, introduction, what is TVET, the importance of wild animal, the TVET and wildfire conversation. If I click continue, and I can add new topics and new slides that I think the AI might have missed, like the importance of tigers to TVET, it creates those presentations in a second and add relevant pictures. Think about this, the power of this for a high school student or a TVET student. Anything, you can create a presentation in seconds and then make it right. This is, not less than magic, in my opinion. So presentations. You can recommend additional resources for people who want to read more, videos, etc. And AI can curate those real resources for you. You can record the lessons and let AI summarize everything. You can generate homework and exercise and test. Instead of thinking about what to test students with, you can say, we're learning calculus today. Write me 20 exercises for the topic that we have learned. We can have text bots and video avatars where you put your information as a teacher or as an educator, and instead of answering calls by the students, have the avatar like Dominic displayed answer. Have your personal avatar answer the students on the topics of the class. And you can save a lot of time in checking assignments and tests, because you can also copy paste whatever the students submitted and have the AI check it and grade it for you, including personalized feedback of what is the right answer. This saves awful lot of time, and you can do it today. Another thing, AI can be your friend, really. You can ask it anything. So being an educator, a teacher, a trainer takes a lot of energy, and sometimes we deal with difficult students. You can say, I have a difficult student, he likes motorcycles, what can I do in order to engage him? And you'll get fantastic answers. You might not accept all of them, but you might have 3 good ideas that you can implement in class. Okay, so a lot, and obviously you can also develop yourself as a teacher. So AI, and especially ChatGPT, would increase your productivity immensely. It will help you with creativity about bringing new stuff and new engagement and interaction into the classroom. It helps with problem solving, both for students, but also for educators. And there are 2 potential risks that you need to know about. The concealed plagiarism, AI uses materials from all over the web. And it also, and students might copy paste stuff from AI. So you need to be aware of it to check that this doesn't happen in your classroom. And there are inherent risks in using AI. It tells lies, it invents stuff. It is lame because it's based on statistics. It doesn't really know everything. It just, does an average of everything in a topic. And then the output might be a bit lame. And legal things, usually you don't have any intellectual property in anything that was produced by AI. And there are very interesting verdicts by the US Supreme Court these days. But I will tell you, whenever you put something on AI, remember there's a company out there that can read all of your stuff. So especially, for example, Dominique showed an example from a hospital. Today, hospitals would not use an AI like ChatGPT because the patient's records are personal information that should not go over to the internet. But they can definitely anonymize those details, put it in ChatGPT or other tools, and get the same result. Or they can use an AI that sits on their hospital infrastructure and doesn't leak to the internet and get the same benefits. Okay, takeaways. Generative AI is really huge and it's here to stay. Everybody should use AI every day, including yourself. People who use AI will replace people who don't use AI. Each one of you can be so much faster and better with AI, so why not try it? Don't let AI fool you, and don't let students fool you with AI. And my personal recommendation, and don't get paid for it, sign up for ChatGPT today. Really, it's so simple. You go to chatopenai.com, and that's it. You ask your first question, and from there on, it's simple addiction. And you need to teach in a new way and keep learning, because technology changes us, it changes the world, it changes our professions, and we need to keep up to date. That's it. Sorry, Julie, if I took a bit more time than was required.
Well, thank you both. And looking at our comments, we've got so many comments. Your presentations were both very exciting, and people are asking. They're asking for your slides. They're asking for the presentations. They're asking for your contact information for Dominic's website. How can we make that available to everyone after the webinar?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I've got my website available. We can definitely provide communication out. I think we have the contact for people who signed up. So if we have a means to get that out, I'd be more than happy. Honestly, all the stuff that I shared today, if you go to my website, basically all of that stuff is there. I've got sample prompts that you can see that I've built. You can see the interactive nurse case studies that we built for the grant work I've done. And I've got my personal contact information if you want to talk to me directly on my website. So that's codeaptivelabs.com, and we can make sure that we get that out to folks.
Absolutely.
So we have a recording of the entire webinar on the Wawiwa website or the IVETA website. Is that possible?
I have the recording on both websites, IVETA and Wawiwa. And on the Wawiwa blog, we actually post every week one or more interesting articles about artificial intelligence, about learning, about reskilling, upskilling. So I encourage you to go to wawiwa-tech.com and subscribe for our newsletter. Absolutely. And of course, everybody can have our personal contact details by contacting IVETA, and they'll be happy to make the connection.
So hopefully that takes care of a lot of the requests for slides and information and the entire recordings. Like I said, we will make them available on the IVETA website and the Wawiwa website, so you will have access to this content. And I would agree, you both did an amazing job of explaining a very complicated topic and making it relatable and excitable, and I can't wait to try some of the things that you suggested. We did have a couple of questions. There was a question, I just need to scroll up. Oh, a question about, could either of you address the issue of potential bias from AI?
Sure. So this is where I feel there is a necessity, an ethical imperative that we have a human expert at the center of leveraging these tools, either as a means of just directly leveraging them or as a means of guiding learners and building their AI literacy. Because technologies like ChatGPT were built on an understanding of human language and what's on the internet. And as a result, it is chock full of bias because humans are chock full of bias. And so this is why AI literacy needs to become such a major focus going forward, is that people need to understand that that bias is going to be there and that there is a recognition of how we account for it. In the end, we still want to make sure we have human judgment in the loop here. But with that understanding, we can account for that bias and ensure that we are taking steps so as not to perpetuate it in an irresponsible way. So that's the most important way I think that we address bias with these technologies.
Right. I would add, that AI is essentially statistics, right? So it goes to the internet, it collects the information, and then it says, what is the most likely output or answer to this question according to this vast amount of information. I think the most I would say, shocking example of AI's bias is in Midjourney, this photo making or visual making tool. If you ask Midjourney, create a picture of a judge or create a picture of a lawyer, you would get a picture of a male, white lawyer or judge. And if you ask, I didn't mention whether it was a female lawyer or a male lawyer, but it gave me a white male lawyer because the internet is full of white male lawyers. But if you ask, give me a picture of a nurse, you would almost always get a picture of a woman, of course, in nurse clothes and everything. But this is obviously a bias, and it's not true for certain location, and it's not true for the world that we want to live in, but it's still statistics and reflective, as Dominique mentioned, in humans' bias. So the same way, like, today we ask Google everything, and tomorrow we'll ask AI everything, we need to remember that not everything that is written on the internet is even true, and that when you ask someone who has a certain pool of data, you'll get answers that are not necessarily right or worthy.
And I think you're right. It has all in the hands of the user to try to discern that bias and to avoid the stereotypes and things, which kind of leads into the next question. Is there anything that you really don't think AI can do? I mean, you both gave some very powerful examples. I've certainly served on the board of a hospital where I've watched, AI really do surgery, remote surgery performed by robots. Anything that we think is still going to have to have that human touch?
All right, I'll take this one and then I'll let Oded take it from there. So, I think, to me, the major benefit that AI brings to our lives is that it allows us to shift our focus to the human experience more. AI is able to lift the burden of certain, bureaucratic tasks or things that are laborious and take up lots of our time. And by doing so, it's not that it's just replacing our capacity and it's a deficit. It's that now we have more capacity to focus on those interpersonal relationships with our colleagues, with our peers. And we have more capacity to spend time with our families and do the things that we value more in our lives. I think that AI definitely can serve this interesting role when it comes to, like, I want you to be this synthetic person that I'm going to talk to. And that brings really interesting value. But I would say, at least for now, there are limits to that, and we can still get such immense benefit from it while ensuring that we're dedicating our time. And when it comes to our students, especially, if I'm an educator, what I would do is I would look for ways that AI can give me more capacity to focus on building relationships with my students and fostering that connection between teacher and learner and critical thinking and interpersonal communication. That is where I think we have a tremendous benefit as a result of AI, and I would not want AI to try to take that away.
If you've asked me, Julie, a year ago, could AI paint fabulous pictures that I would hang in my living room and do 90% of my work as a marketeer? I would say, no way in hell. It's a computer. I've been around computers for 30, 40 years. They can't do that. It wouldn't happen this year. Maybe in a decade, maybe in a few decades. But after seeing what has happened in the development from day to day, from week to week in AI, I don't make such bets anymore. So, I read a book that said that the brightest minds in AI came to a meeting, and someone said, but AI will never replace relationships, and especially, couplehood. And some Japanese AI expert got up and said, actually, some robots are really good at it. So, that blew me away. And I think that AI will be capable of doing a lot of the things that we do as humans, if not all. But what I see, looking at the market, at the industry, at the job market, is that actually the ancient professions that had to deal with human-to-human relationships, like nursing that Dominique mentioned, like gardening, like medicine and psychologist, those things, even if an AI can do it, it's going to take a lot of time before humans trust robots and AI to do those things. So my wife, for example, is a dentist. And you mentioned, Julie, hospitals use robots for eye surgery and heart surgery and all kinds of delicate things. But if you ask my wife, would your patients come to the clinic now and have their dental treatment done by a robot coming into their mouth? Not yet, not yet. So we have a long way to go, and there's still room for humans. And upskilling and reskilling will make sure that whatever jobs are lost, and I saw a question about job creation there, whatever jobs are lost, and most jobs are going to be lost to AI and replaced by automation and robots, there would be not new jobs, but ways in which humans can bring an added value that AI cannot. And new professions, especially the need for tech. Even with AI, there's a need for millions and millions of people in the tech sector. There's way more jobs available, open, unfilled, than there are humans skilled with tech skills, programming, data analytics, data science, cybersecurity, that can fill those jobs. So, I don't know, a marketeer might see his job lost, but he would be able to reskill to a full stack developer or to something else that is needed in the industry.
And thank you both for your responses. And we have so many questions that we really don't have time for, but I think maybe we do need to have another webinar on this topic, because these are just very good questions about, is AI actually making the digital divide worse? I mean, we're seeing all these fancy presentations that you two are making, where we know at least some of our IVETA members struggle with the most basic technology issues in parts of Africa and other countries. Many questions about what you just touched on.
More if you do.
Many questions about the human relationship part, and do we want to interact with actual healthcare workers versus, healthcare bots or whatever. So lots and lots of questions. Probably we'll have another webinar on this topic, but I guess I would just say, in the 3 minutes that we have left, if you could each give a brief closing comment, and then I will close the session.
So just to close things out, like I said before, as an educator, what I feel is most important for us to do right now is, like Oded was saying, we need to start upskilling our capacity as educators, whether you're a teacher or an administrator. And we need to start looking at a focus on AI literacy. And alluding to what Julie was just mentioning, we also need to ensure equitable access to these technologies. It really needs to become an initiative that we make a priority for our educational settings, because this is going to be such a game changer. So that to me is where things are headed, and that's what we need to do. So again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I hope y'all took something good away from it.
Great. I would add, as I mentioned, AI is not a complicated topic. It used to be, all the technology behind AI is super complicated, but AI itself and using it, super simple. So just take the first step, try ChatGPT, and you'll see it's so simple, and you'll see, how easy and beneficial it is. And that also answers questions about digital divide and developing versus developed country. AI is the great equalizer, because if you know English, and soon if you know just any natural language, you can speak to AI in French or in Hebrew or in Japanese, and you just ask it to do something, suddenly you can get knowledge, and you can get something of tangible value that you can sell. So think about people from developing countries who didn't have access to education, but now they can see that there are online jobs for creating blogs. They go to AI, they say, write a blog about this and that, and suddenly, it's just knowing a language, and suddenly you can produce something of value that you can sell. So I think it's also the great equalizer, And the only thing that I have to say is like, try AI and do it, today. And
Well,
thank Julie and IVETA for having this fantastic webinar series and for inviting me to talking lengthier about my passion.
Well, thank you both for your excellent presentations, and thank all of our participants for your engagement today. Our next hot topic webinar partnership will be about career coaching. We'll have international experts in a very similar format, and that will take place on October 10th. And now all of you are on our mailing list. So again, thank you very much for participating. This webinar will be on both websites in a very short time. So thank you very much, and hope to see you again next month.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.